Absolutely, miss.
First, I would like to talk about, you stated that part of the ideal sequence of, in a conversation, an undercover investigator should drop hints of illegal activity.
Yes, subtle hints, that is correct.
And when doing so, this is in hopes that the defendant would latch on to these and admit to activity, correct?
That is correct.
And you did see in today's case that Mickey Keenan dropped hints of illegal activity.
Yes.
But you did also see that Avery Bancroft did not latch on to these, didn't you?
In regards to most of those answers, or to most of the times when Avery Bancroft would respond, he would respond so affirmatively.
But you came to the conclusion that you did not see that Avery Bancroft latched on to the hints that were dropped by Mickey Keenan.
That's correct.
I would also like to talk about another thing that you mentioned, which would be interrupting of targets. Isn't it true that interrupting of targets is used to mask the reluctance of the target?
Yes, there were two interruptions during this transcript. Now, one was simply Officer Keenan interjecting to provide a date, and then the other was when the informant Corey Hyde interrupted to ask specifically who they needed to make happy when Mickey Keenan stated that they needed to make everybody happy.
Actually, Corey Hyde interrupted Avery Bancroft and mentioned sweetening the pot.
That is also correct, yes.
And when interrupting a target, it is bad because there is no sign of a reluctance from the defendant on the tape, correct?
Correct.
And that is present in today's case.
Correct, that is one.
Another thing that you mentioned was the coaching of informants. And you mentioned an email that you saw, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you would recognize a copy of that email was brought before you?
Yes, I would.
The record reflect on the coach. Is it counsel? Permission to approach the witness.
Thank you.
I have just handed you an email between Mickey Keenan and Corey Hyde, correct?
Yes, there is so.
And this email was sent on...
You have a copy of the email from that?
You would have a copy. First. This email was sent on March 30th, correct?
That would be correct.
And it is a fair and accurate copy.
Yes.
It hasn't been changed or altered in any way, correct?
No.
At this time, I move to enter this as Defense Exhibit 1.
No objection, Your Honor. So moved.
And in this email, Mickey Keenan tells Corey Hyde what to do in the meeting on March 31st, correct?
Yes, he doesn't tell him specifically exactly what to do, but he does provide a couple potential subjects to bring up, such as sweetening the pot, which, if you remember me saying earlier, is in line with structuring that conversation by dropping a subtle hint. So it is in line with the best practices.
Correct. Mickey Keenan told Corey Hyde to say things such as sweetening the pot, correct?
That would be correct.
And when Corey Hyde said this, she interrupted Avery Bancroft.
That would be correct.
So both of these things are things that lead to coercion by a government official, correct?
Yes, as I did mention earlier, they were used in a limited scope, however.
And I would just like to talk about one more thing, and that's the evidence that you used for your conclusions. The two things that you used were the transcript, correct?
That would be correct.
And this email, correct?
I was also provided with the affidavits of Corey Hyde and Mickey Keenan.
But the physical exhibits were the email and the transcript, correct?
Yes,
And the transcript is dated March 31st.
that would be correct.
And the email is also dated March 30th and 31st, correct?
That would be correct, yes.
So both exhibits that you used came from March 31st.
Partially, yes.
And you learned that the bribe in today's case didn't happen until April 16th, correct?
That would be correct.
So you didn't review anything that happened between March 31st and April 16th.
Again, I was originally retained by the defense at the time of these March 31st emails in order to determine that. However, I was not provided any other information for my analysis by the defense, so I was only able to review these.
So both of your conclusions were drawn from exhibits that happened over 2 weeks before the bribe in today's case, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. No further questions, just permission to approach and tender the other copy.
Here you go, miss.
Thank you.
Actually, you know, if you can just stay there, kind of stay, we have one.
Okay.
That's great.
Thank you.